love to. Really.
Do your best. So I'm just going to try and look at the moon there for us. Beautiful view there. Have a quick look at the binos as well. Very pretty, that waxing crescent phase. Again, slowly getting bigger. We had a look at it last night as well. And then I'm embarrassed to say, at the moment, I'm not entirely sure. That bright star next to it is definitely a planet. And I'm 90% sure that it's Jupiter. But I'm not 100% sure. Normally I'm very on which planets are out. Always been into astronomy quite a bit. Something we'll look at down the line still. And if I had a big pair of binoculars here, I could just have a look at it and tell you. But it should be Jupiter, just in relatively where it is in the sky. Also relative to Saturn, which is another planet further up, which is not as bright. But Saturn definitely recognizable even through the little binoculars I've got. So in terms of its orbit and where it's sitting, it should be Jupiter, right next to the moon. Well, visually speaking, the way we see it, obviously. Distance-wise, quite different. Actually, no. I'm just trying to do the mathematics. Exactly, that should be Venus, because Venus is a planet that's in the inner orbit, or the inner circle, meaning that it's closer to the Sun than us, again relative with its orbit. And for Jupiter to be that bright, normally it would be further out. So mathematically speaking, the geometry of it, I would say most likely Venus. But in terms of its position and where I've mostly seen Jupiter over the last many years, I'd say Jupiter. So, like I said, I'm a bit embarrassed to say I can't tell you exactly. If I had a big pair of Zeiss or Leica binoculars, I'd be able to see it through that, but I don't have good enough optics here to ideate from that. But definitely a planet. Just the brightness of it, the amount of light that it's reflecting towards us. That's a planet right next to it. The moon itself, a bit difficult to see, but you can probably just make out the rest of the shape of the moon. In other words, the part that's not lit up. Sitting where I am with a naked eye, you can see it quite nicely, and that's because of earth shine. So you've got the earth reflecting the sun's light from us away towards the moon again. So if we were sitting on the moon right now looking back at the earth, you wouldn't actually see a full earth face. You would only see about 3/4 of the earth that's lit up, and all that light that's reflected from the earth, everywhere from all the oceans and all the mountains and all the deserts, everything that's reflecting light away is actually lighting up the rest of the darker part of the moon at the moment. Obviously the whole face towards us. The back side of the moon, if you know the Pink Floyd CD, the dark side of the moon literally is the other side of the moon that we never see from Earth. The moon rotates in a very specific, call it synchronized way if you want, that it rotates around its own axis and obviously then rotates around the Earth. It's a satellite to us, and the way that it rotates, you never actually see the back side or the dark side of the moon. It's always got its front face, if you want to call it that, facing towards the Earth at all times as it moves around slowly in its orbit around Earth. difficult to explain these things always because it's sort of a virtual concept. One of the things I'm looking forward to and hope to develop more over the next months and years is to start showing you more and more about the night skies. It's something I've always been passionate about, always like looking at it, and there's a lot of really interesting constellations out there in amazing distances and sizes and interesting facts, as well as a lot of interesting mythology about all the different stories that people have come up with over thousands of years, and I've always been very interested in that. But I'll still think of and come up with a way of making it visually more interesting and more understanding for you sitting where you are right now joining us here on the game drive. So we're not going to look at this too much longer, but I promise you over the next few months I will start doing and figuring out more and more ways to make you enjoy the night sky out here, because it really is spectacular. I'm sitting here right where I'm sitting now, looking from the moon up. I can see Saturn, I can see the constellation of Leo, Cancer, Gemini towards the horizon, Canis Major, the big hunting dog. Orion's dog is busy setting, with Sirius, the bright eye, the brightest star we can see from Earth. I can see Canopus, the second brightest star we can see from Earth, obviously not counting the sun. Canopus is part of a big southern constellation, something you won't see in the northern hemisphere much, known as Carina. The Southern Cross, the false southern